So here's part 2 on Portage Manor Cemetery and some of the issues that we're facing. Now, one of those issues is access. Right now, there's only 2 ways to enter the cemetery. You can try to enter off of Portage Road in front of the main building, but there's currently a locked gate. If you were to get past the gate, you drive over some grass to a half-mile trail through the woods, where you do get some beautiful views on the way to the cemetery. The other way is off of Riverside Drive. You pull in as if you're going to the Chet Wagner ball fields and cut through this industrial-looking area, which is actually a county highway garage, and you definitely feel like you shouldn't be there while you're driving through there, but at the end of it is a short trail that leads to the cemetery. Not an ideal scenario either way, and something that we need to figure out. Another big issue is we don't know what's going to happen to the Portage Manor building or the rest of the over 100 acres of land that's out there. Now, there's a lot of talk about the county or city giving it to a developer to create housing or some sort of mixed-use area. And you also hear a lot of people making a case for why the entire area should be preserved. Maybe the ideal solution is a mixture of both. But regardless, with the future of the surrounding area in question, it's hard to make plans for the cemetery. We really need to understand what's going to happen here. And finally, perhaps the biggest issue of all, we don't know where all the bodies are buried, literally. I mean, we know what the boundaries of the cemetery look like today, but we're not 100% sure what it looked like when it first existed over 120 years ago. And here's why. So the county opened the Portage Manor building in 1907, and there's historical documentation that shows that the first burial occurred on New Year's Eve that same year in 1907. But it's not really documented exactly where that took place. And here's why that matters. Well, the county did not own the land where the cemetery currently sits until 5 years later in 1912. So this is what the area looked like around 1907 with the first purchase of land. The red outline denotes the Portage Manor property in its entirety today. Lilac Road actually used to run straight down all the way to the river and then follow the river. You can see that line colored here in blue. That's Lilac Road. Then the cemetery as it exists today is in green at the corner of the property. But when the county first purchased land, they bought land all the way up to Lilac Road, but not on the other side of the road where the current cemetery exists. That was privately owned at the time, and the county wouldn't buy that until 5 years later in 1912. So historical records show that they continued burying bodies from 1907 to 1912, but they don't say where they were burying them. There's a few different possibilities. But the most likely one is that they were burying them at the corner of the property that they owned at the time. Then, when the additional land was purchased, they simply extended the cemetery into that area. Official documentation with the State Board of Health on burials also didn't begin until 1912, and those are the records that the county GIS team used to create the plot grid. So in fact, when you get out there, you can see that there's a stone marking the beginning of the cemetery, and it's set back well before the field begins. That stone also has 1907 etched into it, not 1912. You can also see the tree line clearly has begun to grow into the area over time. So it's a strong possibility that this wooded area contains dozens of unmarked graves. Now that doesn't take into account any lazy, late night, deep winter, careless burials that may have occurred anywhere throughout the Portage Manor property by irresponsible caretakers. But that's all just conjecture. So in summary, preserving the cemetery and honoring the souls buried within it is a priority for me and the township, but we have a lot of external factors that we need to deal with and understand first.